Hey guys, it's Jasper, and today we're going to be reading chapter 14 of The Princess and the Goblin. Pairing with today's reading, I will be having a great, big, beautiful mug of something good. As always, pour yourself something yummy to drink, relax, enjoy, and cheers. Chapter 14, That Night Week. During the whole of the week, Irene had been thinking every other moment of her promise to the old lady, although even now she could not quite feel sure she had not been dreaming. Could it really be that an old lady lived up in the top of a house with pigeons and a spinning wheel and a lamp that never went out? She was, however, none the less determined on the coming Friday to ascend the 3 stairs, walking through the passages with the many doors, and try to find the tower in which she had either seen or dreamed her grandmother. Her nurse could not help wondering what had come to the child. She would sit so thoughtfully silent, and even in the midst of a game with her would so suddenly fall into a dreamy mood. But Irene took care to betray nothing, whatever efforts Ludi might make to get through to her thoughts. And Ludi had said to herself, "What an odd child she is," and give it up. At length, the long-looked-for Friday arrived, and lest Ludi should be moved to watch her, Irene endeavored to keep herself as quiet as possible. In the afternoon, she asked for her doll's house, and went on arranging and rearranging the various rooms of their inhabitants for a whole hour. Then she gave a sigh and threw herself back in her chair. One of the dolls would not sit, and another would not stand. They were all very tiresome indeed. There was one that would not even lie down, which was too bad. But it was now getting dark, and the darker it got, the more excited Irene became, and the more she felt it necessary to be composed. "I see you want your tea, Princess," said the nurse. "I will go get it. The room feels close. I will open a window a little. The evening is mild. It won't hurt you." "There's no fear of that, Ludi," said Irene, wishing she had put off going for the tea till it was darker, when she might have made her attempt with every advantage. I fancy Ludi was longer in returning than she had intended, for when Irene, who had been lost in thought, looked up, she saw it was nearly dark, and at the same moment caught sight of a pair of eyes, bright with green light, glowering at her through the open window. The next instant, something leaped into the room. It was like a cat, with legs as long as horses, Irene said, but its body no bigger than its legs, no thicker than those of a cat. She was too frightened to cry out, but not too frightened to jump from her chair and run from the room. It is plain enough to every one of my readers what she ought to have done, and indeed, Irene thought of it herself. But when she came to the foot of the old stair, just outside the nursery door, she imagined the creature running up those long ascents after her and pursuing her through the dark passage, which, after all, might not lead to any tower. The thought was too much. Her heart failed her, and turning from the stair, she rushed along to the hall, whence, finding the front door open, she darted into the court, pursued at last, she thought, by the creature. No one happening to see her, on she ran, unable to think for fear and ready to run anywhere to elude the awful creature with the stilt legs. Not daring to look behind her, she rushed straight out of the gate and up the mountain. It was foolish indeed, thus to run further and further from all who could help her, as if she had been seeking a fit spot for the goblin creature to eat her in his leisure. But that is the way fear serves us. It always takes us the side of the thing we are afraid of. The princess was soon out of breath and running uphill, but she ran on, and she fancied the horrible creature just behind her, forgetting that, had it been after her, such legs as those must have overtaken her long ago. At last she could run no longer, and fell, unable even to scream by the roadside, where she lay for some time, half dead with terror. But finding nothing lay hold of her, and her breath beginning to come back, she ventured at length to get half up and peer anxiously about her. It was now so dark that she could see nothing. Not a single star was out. She could not even tell in what direction the house lay, and between her home she fancied the dreadful creature lying ready to pounce upon her. She saw now that she ought to have run up the stairs at once. It was well she did not scream, for although very few of the goblins had come out for weeks, a stray idler or two might have heard her. She sat down upon a stone, and nobody but one who had done something wrong could have been more miserable. She had quite forgotten her promise to visit her grandmother. A raindrop fell on her face. She looked up for a moment. Her terror was lost in astonishment. At first she thought the rising moon had left her place and drawn nigh to see what could be the matter with the little girl sitting alone, without hat or cloak, on the dark bare mountain. But she soon saw she was mistaken, for there was no light on the ground at her feet, and no shadow anywhere, but a great silvery globe was hanging in the air. And as she gazed at the lovely thing, her courage revived. If she were but indoors again, she would fear nothing, not even the terrible creature with the long legs. But how was she to find her way back? What could that light be? Could it be? No, it couldn't. But what if it should be? Yes, it must be her great-great-grandmother's lamp, which guided her pigeons home through the darkest night. She jumped up. She had but to keep the light in view, and she must find the house. Her heart grew strong. Speedily yet softly she walked down the hill, hoping to pass the watching creature unseen. Dark as it was, there was little danger now of choosing the wrong road, and, which was most strange, the light that filled her eyes from the lamp, instead of blinding them for a moment to the object on which they fell next, enabled her for an instant to see it, despite the darkness. By looking at the lamp and dropping her eyes, she could see the road for a yard or two in front of her, and this saved her from several falls, for the road was very rough. But all at once, to her dismay, it vanished, and the terror of the beast, which had led her to the moment she began to run, returned, again laid hold of her heart. The same instant, however, she caught the light of the windows and knew exactly where she was. It was too dark to run, but she made what haste she could and reached the gate in safety. She found the house door still open, ran through the hall, and, without even looking into the nursery, bounded straight up the stair, and the next, then turning to the right, ran through the long avenue of silent rooms, and found her way at once to the door at the foot of the tower stair. When first the nurse missed her, she fancied she was playing her trick, and for some time took no trouble about her. But at last, getting frightened, she had begun to search, and when the princess entered, the whole household was hither and thither over the house hunting for her. A few seconds after she reached the stair of the tower, they had even begun to search the neglected rooms, in which they never would have thought of looking, had they not already searched every other place they could think of in vain. But, by this time, she was knocking at the old lady's door. Now this chapter exemplifies something that I love about this book, and something which is one of the main reasons why I love this book, and that would be its relationship with dark and light that it explores, and in particular fear and truth. There's a line in particular that I love, and I'm going to just read it again. But that is the way fear serves us. It always takes the side of the thing that we are afraid of. And I like that because often, when we are afraid, and then when we look back on our experience and we go, why did we do this when we were afraid? Why didn't we just do this? And it's as if we forget the power that fear has over us. And so I love how this chapter deals with fear and, talking to its readers, which would largely be children, about fear, and sort of saying, it's funny, we let fear drive us, control us. And we've seen hints of this in earlier chapters. And so I love this reminder again about fear and how Princess Irene realizes that she needs to really be thoughtful and really think. And Irene recognizes that she had that initial instinct. Her heart said, run to your grandmother's. But fear said, you remember those long stairs? Do you remember those dark hallways? Remember, that maybe it's a dream, maybe your grandmother's not there? Do you really want to get caught there? And so she listens to fear over her heart. And then where does fear take her? Fear takes her outside of the castle, up the mountain, and into the woods, which is by far a worse place to find her. And and she should have been lost if it were not for her grandmother's light. And so it's neat that Princess Irene recognizes this about herself. She recognizes she should have listened to her heart and not to fear. I would love to hear your thoughts about this chapter on how it handles the subject of fear. As always, I hope whatever you've been drinking has been good. The story and conversation have been a fair match. Cheers and cheers. Chapter. My name's Chapter. Hey guys, it's Jasper, and today we're going to be reading chapter 13 or 14 of The Princess and the, I'm gonna just make sure first. And like she was gonna start going in the forest, and it's like what she said.